All right, people, I need a go, no-go for the Geek News Central podcast. Digital archive recorders.
We're go fly.
Microphone.
We're go fly.
Video feed.
Go.
Web browser.
Go.
RSS data stream aggregator.
Go fly.
Interflux Toddism suppressor.
All right, I'm confused.
Host readiness check.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
The Geek News Central podcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go. Cue Todd in
5,
Button, who's got the button?
4,
There is no cause for alarm.
3,
Everybody hold on to something.
2,
Just press the button.
1.
Welcome to episode 1154 of the Geek News Central podcast. It's Monday, October 17th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Support the show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider or just paypal.me/geeknews. You can always pick up Ohana gear at cafepress.com/Ohana store. Here we got a great show lined up for you tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about tech retribution, and I'll get into that in a little bit of detail. Google and saving money on flights. We're going to talk a little bit more about Samsung, and we're going to talk about WikiLeaks, specifically a certain individual who doesn't have internet connectivity anymore. But we'll talk about those topics and many, many more here tonight on the Geek News Central podcast. I want to give a warm welcome to all of the longtime listeners and viewers of the show. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, all of you that are part of the Ohana, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be back in the studio for 2 shows. And then I go on the road again. This is kind of crazy. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're brand new to the show, I want to welcome you to the podcast and thank you for checking out for the very first time. I want you to take time to get over to geeknewscentral.com and check out all the great content on the website. When you're over there, all you really got to do is let's get you subscribed to the show. And you do that by following links on the right-hand side of the column, right-hand column of the website, whether it be iTunes, Android app via email, Google Play, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, or just an old-school podcast catcher with an RSS feed. If you don't know what any of that means, click on the more subscribe options, and that'll get you instructions on how to subscribe to the show. Then if you scroll down a little bit further on the site, you're going to find a link to the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. That contains everything I'm going to talk about during the show. And basically, you'll get an email with everything that I've chatted about, and that way you'll have all the articles at your fingertips and a reminder that there's a new show available online. Of course, again, visit Geek News Central Daily to read the great content being put out by our writers. You can always email me here directly at the show, geeknews@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Geek News. You can join our Slack channel by emailing me at geeknews@gmail.com. Put in the subject line Slack, and I'll get you added to that. You can follow on Google Plus and Facebook. You can watch this show on the Roku via the Tech Podcast channel or on the Apple TV. You can listen to the show on Amazon Echo by telling Alexa to play the latest edition of this show's name. You can listen on Stitcher, watch or listen on Blueberry.com. Of course, we want to thank our partner shows here. And really, all of you can get over and check those out yourself. Real easy to do. So you can go on the Pro Gear site, where we're talking about the lots of different new Pro Gear that's going on. And we can, of course, you can check the Gadget Professor out as well, gadgetprofessor.com, the Gadget Professor. Health Tech Weekly with Jamie Davis, No Better Than Average with Jacob and Jeff. Of course, the Podcast Legend Show. Just a great interview that I put up yesterday with Dawn and Drew from the Dawn and Drew Show. And lots of ways to stay connected and have a good time with this podcast. All of it can be found at geeknewscentral.com. All right, let me go here. Let's see what I've got in my thing. Let's go down with my stack. Oh, of course. This show would not be possible without our great sponsors over at GoDaddy.com. We want to encourage you to go over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And that's a very important URL to visit, to share with your friends, family members, people that you know. When you get over to geeknewscentral.com, you're going to find all of the deals that are available there. And really, you want to go to the website at GoDaddy, get all the details, but there's 30% off on new product purchases, 99cent.coms, 1 month free trial with GoDaddy Website Builder. You've got $1 a month economy hosting. You got $1 a month managed WordPress hosting. All those codes are there. Click on them. That'll get you through. Share these with your friends, family members, people that you know. More importantly, just share the page. Tweet the page out, put it up on Facebook. Share it with the office folks. You hear someone talking about needing a hosting account. Hey, I listened to this show, Geek News Central. I got you a deal. And save your friends and family members, coworkers, people that you know money. And send them over to the page at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. We want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here of the show and being here since July of 2005, making them the longest continuous sponsor of any podcast known to man. So please support them in supporting this show. I feel like I'm talking down the mic. Let's raise the mic up a little bit. All right, I know. I've gotten some emails on it. Everyone's asking, what did you do to your hair? Let's put it this way. I got bold. Instead of having a barcode on top of my head when I was doing the big flip over, because there's not hardly any hair left on top of my head, I told the barber, I said, why don't you just take this thing down to a number 2? And for those of you that, for the fellas out there that have ever gotten a military haircut, you'll know that a 0 is skin, and then a number 1 is the actual number 1 adapter that they put on the trimmers, and number 2 is the next adapter up. I think they all go all the way up from the adapters 1 to 10. And I told the lady, I said, go ahead and give me a number 2 on top. She refused. She took a lot off, but she didn't leave me much. I was asked my son, what did you like better, flipped over or kind of combed back a little bit? And he said, I think I liked it flipped over. So I don't, it's when you're losing your hair, it sucks, but I'm not willing to go spend $10,000 and go to the hair club and have a bunch of plugs put in. I'm not quite that vain, but it is what it is. And you guys have started out with this show. Those of you who've been here from the beginning for 12 years, it is 12 years, by the way. The show has been, 3 days ago was the 12-year anniversary of this podcast. So many of you have been here from the beginning. And I was 40 when we started doing the show. And the noggin had more hair follicles. So, yes, it sucks. But it is what it is, and at some point it's just going to be a landing strip, and we'll be done with it. I don't think I quite have the ability to go bald yet, but who knows? I think even my wife is becoming more accepting of no hair on top. But I'm glad to be back in the studio. Flew back on Saturday. I got in late, and then was looking forward to going home, getting a shower, going to bed. And my wife said, "Oh, we got to go to a party. My son's soccer team is having a meetup, a little little campsite fire barbecue stuff." And I smiled and grinned it, and we went over to that for a couple of hours. And by the time I got in bed, I think I'd been up like 25 or 26 hours. So I was late getting up to do the new media show with Rob Greenlee. My alarm clock didn't go off, so Sunday was really spent catching up. I put some reviews up on Geek News Central and really kind of getting life back in order here, trying to get caught up. But, yeah, I'm glad to be back even for a few days. Friday, I fly out, and here's the skinny. Going to be headed to Michigan. I'm going to go see my mom and my sister for a couple of days, and the kids and cousins. I'll be there, and then I'll drive out on Tuesday morning, go to Columbus. Be with my Raw Voice team pretty much throughout the week. Have time with a meetup in Columbus on Tuesday night. So if any of you are within striking distance of Columbus, feel free to come out to that event. If you're in Cincinnati, wherever you may be, if you're Dayton, you're within driving distance. We're gonna get started at 6:30 and go to 8. And or whenever we get finished. So feel free to come out to the meetup, and I'll have a link up in the show notes on that. But then, so there will be 2 shows next week while I'm on the road if everything goes according to plan. Mike Dell's coming down the office too, so him and I will be there with the rest of the team Tuesday and Wednesday. But anyway, look forward to that. So if you're in the Columbus area, feel free to come out. I have not finalized the assistant situation yet. I'm still waiting for some financial stuff to clear to make sure that I'm going to be able to sustain that long term. So I just wanted to let you know that's kind of what the holdup on that is. Everything continues to look good for that happening, but I just need a little bit more time to make sure that what I think is going to happen is happening. No risk at all to the show or anything like that. Just want to make sure that the revenue levels for the show are where they need to be. And so I'll keep you advised on that. But your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. For those of you that are insiders, thank you for your contributions. I know I haven't acknowledged you very much recently, but I do appreciate all of you that have come in as an insider and supporting the show. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. And thank you so much for your ongoing support and your basically being behind the show. I definitely appreciate it. Okay, so I've got a stack of stuff tonight I want to talk about, and I'm going to delve a little bit into an area that I just have. It's developed over the last 6 months, and it all has to do with the political climate. And I don't want to point necessarily fingers, but I just want to talk a little bit about some things I've been seeing online. I've seen situations where, and this is specifically in the tech space, and I guess maybe it's happening all over, but even I have in Facebook, I have been not unfollowing people, but I just been hiding conversations that are, over the top, inflammatory on either side, and just trying to put everything as much as on ignore as possible. But what I've seen is there was some articles today talking about a certain tech maven who contributed a large sum of money to a specific politician, and the fallout for that is people are disassociating and undoing business relationships because they are talking about who he contributed money to in politics. And I see it on both sides. And I see people unfriending and people saying nasty things and people saying, I'm not going to be behind this person because it supports a certain candidate or another. And it's been pretty equal on either side of the house. I think it's been a little bit harder for people that are a Trump supporter specifically. If they've said something online, I've seen a lot of abuse to people. And again, both sides. But what, on this show, we talk tech. So we try to, I talk from time to time about things going on in Congress. I mean, I feel that I'm an equal opportunity basher when it comes to both Republicans and Democrats on stuff that they're doing legislative on the tech side. I try to not take sides. I just kind of, I look at something that's going on and I apply my my filter to it and give my opinion. It doesn't matter, where it falls out political wise. I'm concerned about the end user. I look at what happens to those of us that use this technology, those of us that are online, those of us that, are worried about digital rights, everything that's going on in that space and fair use and copyright and, all those things that we talk about on this show and have talked about on the show for many, many years. And honestly, I don't care who a person votes for. I really don't. I don't make an opinion on someone and stop doing business with someone or hold it against them on their political leanings. Business is business. Politics is politics. And there's now gotten to the point where, and maybe this is true in all business aspects, but I'm amazed at how people are like disassociating themselves and it's retribution. It's punishment for someone supporting a specific candidate. And I'm in business. How can you do that? How can you punish someone when 50%? Let's see, if you're a business owner, and and obviously he didn't announce that he had donated to a specific candidate. It was, who you donate to is pretty much fair game because it's done in in campaign reporting rules. It'll show exactly how much you've contributed. I have not contributed in a while to any campaign, largely just because of the simple fact that this type of activity is going on. So I'm astounded just a little bit about how nasty it's got, and I just wonder after this is all over, the smoke clears after November 7th when we have a new president. I wonder if it's going to stop. I just wonder if there's going to continue to be more division and people punishing people and getting, retribution for a candidate that they may or may not have supported. So it is an interesting time. I don't think I've ever seen this before on any other campaign where there was such decisiveness and such nasty stuff being said. The candidates are doing what they're doing and slinging dirt and mud. We have to stop as citizens. We got to stop slinging mud at each other. And I understand there's a lot at stake and everything else, but it just amazes me when I read about, because he did this, we're not going to associate with him anymore, or because she said that. And it's remarkable. It really, really is. And the hostility is pretty crazy. So just from and maybe, I'm just watching this on the tech side. Maybe this is happening in other aspects of business, and maybe it always has. I don't know. Maybe I've had my blinders on. But, it's an interesting time for sure. But I'm not even going to link to the specific articles that I read. But it wasn't just, again, I'm seeing examples of this against high prominent tech leaders, top-level CEOs of companies who have taken a beating from both sides of the fence, both Republican and Democrat. And matter of fact, I think the 3 articles that I have up was one guy getting bashed for supporting Trump, and then 2 people, one CEO and another woman getting bashed for supporting Hillary Clinton. So it's been, on both sides of the fence. It's been nasty. So are you guys making business decisions based upon someone's political leanings? Are you not associating with that business? Have you guys actually, as an audience, decided I'm not going to do business with that person because I'd love to, if you don't want to, this is probably a tricky email to send, and if you just tell me, no, don't say my name, I will do that. Just write, yes, I'm not supporting a certain person because he's done this, and here's why. I'd love to hear that from you if that's the case. As a business owner, and I have clients at, when Raw Voice Blueberry touches 75,000 podcasters are creating content, and from, all walks of life and everything else, you leave the politics at home. So it is an interesting time for sure. But anyway, that, and I know it's not 100% tech related, but I'm just reading the commentary being made by tech articles against these folks that are contributing money to candidates. Okay, and I'm actually right now, I'm closing the specific articles, and again, I'm not going to link them up in the show notes because I think that just drives more, and I think all of us don't need it. But I try to continue my news blackout. It's hard because, they're throwing news links and stuff all over the place. But one thing I did want to talk a little bit about is WikiLeaks. love him or hate him, definitely has made for a lot of discussion. And obviously the DNC has taken the brunt of the abuse by the stuff that's been going on through WikiLeaks. And we're not going to debate those particular releases in this show. But he did have Julian Assange did get his internet access severed. And he indicated in a tweet that it was some state nation. Well, it may have actually been his Ecuadorian guest or host. They may have cut the dude's internet. So, they did. They confirmed. We can confirm Ecuador cut off Assange internet access Saturday at 5 p.m. shortly after the publication of the Clinton's Goldman Sachs speeches. So did Ecuador get pressure from somebody? It's kind of an interesting move here. But, wow, maybe they want him out. Oh, man. But it fuels the conspiracy theories out there that, that stuff's going on that maybe shouldn't be going on. But makes you go, just a little bit, doesn't it? Hey, Google's add price tracking for flight tickets. Booking flights. And when I book a lot of flights, and I'm always looking for minimal layovers, and at the same time trying to save money and keep the price down. I was booking this ticket back to the East Coast, and I was really trying to keep my transit time minimized, but usually the shortest routes are the most expensive, and if you're willing to take 2 or 3 hops, then the price comes down. It's much cheaper. And depending on when you book and everything else, the price can be considerably different. Maybe difference between like a $600 one-way and maybe like an $800 one-way, at least for me here in Hawaii. So, I try to say, okay, is it worth an extra 3 hours in an airplane to save $400? And usually, the answer to that is yes, if I have time in my schedule. I don't always, but often do. But Google adding this price tracking for flight tickets is kind of cool. So they're going to basically tell you if you're booking a flight, the likelihood of that flight going down in price within a certain number of days. Now, my biggest challenge when I'm booking flights, and I find, I know I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm looking to, and I fly United, so I'm looking for routes. I know I'm going to either go through San Francisco, I'm going to go through LA, or I'm going to land in Denver, I'm going to go to Houston. Those are my gateway cities to the East Coast. This flight I took a couple of weeks ago was Honolulu to Newark. Absolutely butt kicker. Don't want to have to do that again. About every 5 or 6 hours, I want to be able to get up and walk around for an hour without being walking in the aisleway of the airplane. So sometimes I look at the booking of a flight and I look how full the airplane is, and I say, can I come back to this in 2 days and be assured there's even going to be a seat on it? So if you're really shopping for the cheapest price and you're willing to play and you have a flexible schedule, this might be a great tool to use to save $50, $100, or maybe even a couple $100 on an airline ticket. Now, like me, if you're flying 5 people, $200 a ticket down price, that's $1,000 if I'm flying the entire family. So we'll see if this new Google tool takes off. I'm definitely going to be experimenting with it for sure. But again, booking online flights, you should be able to save some money with this app that they're doing. So it's called Google Flights. Just Google it, and you'll get taken to the page where it's available. So anyway, link will be up in the show notes. Okay. I'm going to say hi to Mike. I'm going to say hi to Rita. That's all in the live chat tonight. Thanks for being here. Let's see here. Or on the live stream. And anyone that's on YouTube, thanks for being here. Feel free to say hello in the chat room. Well, everyone's wondering, now what does Samsung do? And I've got a horror story to tell you first. I met Dulles on Saturday, getting ready to get on the airplane. I really like flying out of Reagan, typically out of D.C. It's just easier. But this flight, I was booked on to come through Dulles after having made an East Coast, bouncing around different places for a week. But this, I'm basically at the gate. I'm standing. I'm I got a Premier Access. I'm sitting, priority one boarding. I'm first in line, and they make the announcement about the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 flight ban. And I'm kind of looking around, watching, see if people are like readjusting themselves or putting phones in bags. I'm trying to see if someone's hiding a phone. So instead, I see this guy. He stands up, and he comes around the corner, and he's got a Galaxy Note 7 in his hand, at least what appears to be from the distance I'm standing away from him. And he goes up to start talks, and it gets loud because they're telling him, you can't get on the airplane. You got to give this up. No, we're not going to ship it. No, and so I'm like busting the camera out because I'm ready to get some fireworks here, right? And the voices are increasing, and the one lady's calling security, and I bring my phone up to record it, and he sees me, and he says, "Hey you," and he called me a beep word. He says, "Don't you beep, record me. I'll come over there and beep beep beep." So I'm feeling threatened. I've never felt threatened before for raising my iPhone up. So I kind of put it down. And I'm trying to figure out, can I sneak in this guy a video of this dude? But I'm thinking he is so irritated, he is likely to come over and assault me. So I just played it cool and left my phone down. And meanwhile, it's getting louder and louder, and he's yelling, "I'm not giving up my phone, and what gives you the right?" and blah blah blah. And security gets there, and about this time they start boarding us. So I didn't get to see how it fully transposed. I wasn't up in the front of the airplane. I wasn't first class. I was in an exit row about 13 seats back or something like that. So I was watching for him to see if he got on the airplane, and I know he did not board the aircraft. So this guy flipped out hard. And you got a $600 or $700 phone, and they're saying, no, you can't get on the airplane, and no, you can't ship it, and no, you can't put it in a bag, and no, you can't, just no. And so I just wondered if there would be a compilation of horror stories from the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 flight ban. And sure enough, the folks over at Gizmodo did have a list. They didn't have my story, but I think I had the loudest person yelling and he'd made it, security wasn't really announcing it. I didn't see no signage at Dulles saying that there was a ban. There was a TV notice that was coming up in the rotation on the monitors talking about it. But I just wonder how many people hid their phones in their bags and had them off and flew home. Now, if this guy had done that, if he wouldn't have been stupid and went up but it was $8,500 fine if you got caught in jail time. So people are taking a big risk by flying with these phones and getting caught. Some people are so confused. I even heard there was like Samsung S5 and S6 owners who were like giving their phones to loved ones and not bringing those on the airplane. But it was, it was only the Galaxy Note 7. Man, and the flight attendants, you could tell they were looking. And when I came through, I could tell that, I had my iPhone in my hand, and she looked specifically at my phone. And I was just watching the reaction. So they were on the hunt for those things, and they were serious. But they was really about a 24-hour notice from the time the FAA announced the ban to when it actually implemented. So most people weren't reading the news or watching the news. They had no idea. So it's been revealed, though, that Samsung used an internal lab to test the Note 7 batteries instead of a third party, which is highly unusual. Normally, batteries have to go to what's called a CTIA-certified lab, and there's 28 of those throughout the world. They had gotten approval to not go through CTIA by some organization. So it's a wonder if Samsung was behind and pushed through these batteries so fast and was able and basically bypass CTIA. I bet you they don't do that ever again. But they did this testing in their own lab, so maybe they just didn't have as thorough a testing regimen as they needed to have. So anyway, very, very interesting development, and we'll see where it goes from here. The FTC today said that it may not be able to regulate Comcast, Google, and Verizon. The FTC seeks to reverse the AT&T ruling that may gut Consumer Protection Authority. We know that they had a court ruling that was overturned, but the FTC on this past week petitioned the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals for a rehearing in a case involving AT&T's throttling of unlimited data plans. A Ninth Circuit panel previously ruled that the FTC cannot punish AT&T, and the decision raised questions again about the FTC's ability to regulate any company that operates a common carrier business, such as a telephone or internet service. So, but the FTC is pretty worried about it, and Congress up to this point is not inclined, or has not been inclined, to give the FTC any type of mandate to basically make sure we get what we pay for as consumers. So, if you think that the FTC should have a mandate to, for those of you watching the show, I updated the two computers behind me to the new version of the Mac operating system, and that bottom monitor doesn't want to stay on. And there's no screensaver. It doesn't want to stay on it. About every 5 minutes, it shuts off. So there's a screensaver implemented, but I didn't turn it on. So I'm going to have to troubleshoot why that stupid thing is shutting off. I just reached over and touched the mouse, and it came back to life. So I don't know if there's a bug or what, but I'll track it down and find out what's going on. So for those of you who are watching, that's why that screen went black. Okay, so we'll see what happens with the FTC. Again, if you are so inclined, feel free to reach out to your representative. Probably have to wait till after the election because no one's listening to anybody right now anyway. But might be a worthy cause. All right, Space Station mock-up in Houston. There's a pretty good guided tour. I think it's a kid or a very young person that's interviewing this astronaut. They walk through, again, the Space Station mock-up, and it's a kind of the Q&A video. It's kind of cute. Link will be up in the show notes. Also, SpaceX, Elon Musk has basically says sabotage, and this is not official, sabotage unlikely cause of the September 1st explosion, but still a worry. They do think that they may have a theory for the failure within, basically they're saying that there was a formation of solid oxygen on the carbon composite overwrapped pressure vessel, COPV, and apparently the helium reservoir that is immersed in liquid oxygen tank on Falcon 9's second stage, something burst or something. They feel that might be the case. So they're investigating that, and they feel they'll be able to get back to flight very, very quickly. But he was given a speech. This is interesting, at the National Reconnaissance Office at NRO headquarters in Chantilly, Virginia. Now, NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, you can read up about their mandate. So, as a company that's putting vehicles into orbit, he was probably there to solicit and inform them on what SpaceX is doing, I would assume. They didn't publish his speech, obviously, but definitely there to probably drum up some business to try to put some NRO product on top of a SpaceX rocket. But they got to quit blowing them up. NASA's unveiled a new testbed for electric aircraft, and this is interesting. Now, okay, you guys know that Solar Impulse 2 was here in Hawaii and did an around the world trip, and of course they are now back, in Dubai and having. What am I doing here? Can I close that? Okay, let me check this. I think I just screwed myself here, so let me try this. I'm going to relaunch an application so I can show you guys a screen. I had too many. But electric aircraft, if you think about that for a second, that's a concept that makes me go, because fuel management in aircraft can be difficult as it is, but I can't imagine having to worry about, headwinds and having a battery on board that all of a sudden they're saying, hey, we have to divert because we need to recharge. But NASA apparently is, again, unveiling a new test bed for electric aircraft. Their aim is to make electric flight the standard in the next decade. I just find that to be a little bit of a stretch, to be perfectly honest with you, that they would think that we could get there from here at this point. Even the solar-powered aircraft had a very difficult time. That very, very slow, having to, plan the winds, all that stuff. I just don't, maybe in a small single seat aircraft or something like that, but the batteries required to do this are massive and they're heavy. So time will tell where this actually leads. But anyway, that's their test. But you're never going to have an electric airline, all right? That's just kind of forget about that. You want to learn a little bit about C. In other words, you want to learn to code with C. There's a useful free PDF that's available. I'll have that link up in the show notes. It's become highly rated. It's by Magpie, Magpie, and he's gotten some good reviews. So I'll have that link up in the show notes. Always cool to find a cool book that you can actually learn something from. So I have that up for you. Hey, this is something that I find curious. Russia, this is an article over on Engadget, and Russia hopes to block cruise missile attacks with cell towers. They're going to be using the civilian network for national defense. Now, this article starts out basically saying, while the United States may put its blimp-based missile defense system on hold, Russia's taking a more civilian approach to jamming cruise missiles. As Motherboard reports today, the Russian military is planning to mount anti-missile jamming devices called Pol-21s on civilian cellular network towers, giving the Kremlin a wide coverage area in the case of a U.S. missile attack. This system apparently works with existing antennas on these 250,000 cell towers. And so their goal here is to jam and to affect navigation. So I don't know if that means they're going to jam GPS or what they're going to jam, but they basically are saying that even a small disruption of navigation signals can be affect a missile's accuracy. They say in this article, and gadgets say, on the other hand, the U.S. equipment like the Tomahawk missile are already designed with onboard anti-jamming devices intended to keep them on course in face of such interference. So, but the thing that they kind of imply here is they say if they do jam those systems with these 250,000 cell towers, it also causes the Russians' equipment to not work as well. So I thought that was interesting. But the Russians are still worried about someone coming in and nuking them, I guess. But tells you the Cold War is still on, folks. But they're going to start using cell towers to jam navigation signals. Interesting. All right, MIT, their fusion reactor broke a world record right before the Feds shut it off. And how did that happen? Well, the Feds basically pulled their funding. This 30-year MIT fusion program is essentially out of cash. They accomplished a lot over the years of operation. 23 years of operation, excuse me, not 30. And the Alcator CMOD reactor, the world's only compact high magnetic field fusion reactor, again was pulled offline for good on October 1st. and now they're looking for outside funding to do smaller projects and to build mini fusion reactors. Meanwhile, the attempt, I believe they're doing something in France to try to see if they can, get to the point of having sustained fusion power. But I think we're still a long ways away from this. It's exciting that they've been really trying and spending the money, but to do it, it's crazy expensive to run these systems and to test. So the United States is really at this point going to kind of be behind, and the rest of the world will continue to move forward with, try to get a fusion reactor going, but a sustainable one that will actually, don't have to be fed, and it produces more than it costs to generate it. But I'll have the link up in the show notes on this. So I think we're still a ways away. All right, this is kind of a fun thing. This might be a stocking stuffer for you. Yes, you're already thinking about Christmas gifts. I know you are. Let me bring this up for you so you guys can see it. Okay, paste and go. I think I need to reboot this computer. It's running slow. All right, here we go. What is the deal? Come on. There's nothing going on here that... So if you want a flux capacitor keychain, they're available for $10. And all the geeks are out there. You guys know you want one. So a flux capacitor keychain. Put a time machine in your pocket. $10 is what it costs. You can get over at ThinkGeek. All right, ThinkGeek's always coming up with cool little gadget stuff like this for those of us that just can't resist. So get your wallet. Probably costs you have more shipped to you than it does buy the stupid thing. Did you hear about this guy that jumped off a building 130 feet to go into the water but almost hit a dock? I'm just going to put the link up in the show notes. This dude is insane, and he almost killed himself in the process. These folks doing these crazy jumps are nuts. I 129 feet jump into water. If you don't hit the water right, I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I was 30 knots, 30 feet, basically I was wearing a shorty. Those of you that dive know what that is. So basically from my ankle all the way up to mid-thigh, I was, bare skin. And when I went into the water, 30 feet at 30 knots from jumping from a helicopter, it basically, ladies, instantaneous, I was waxed the back of my legs. I did not have a hair one. That was the, going and talk about red and hurt. Oh, my God. But the most beautiful wax job you'd have ever seen caused by water. So this guy, jumps off a 130-foot roof, and it looked like to me he went in the water just a little bit sideways too. I didn't hear the screaming when he came out of the water, but he was lucky he didn't hit this dock. And if you see this video, it's just you'll gulp. People are doing crazy stuff today, and it's entertaining, but man, at some point someone's gonna get splatted. All right, Facebook is see, his monitor just went dead again. There's something causing that thing go to sleep. Not happy. And it often doesn't want to come back on too. So I'll have to figure out. Facebook Messenger suggesting what to talk about with conversation topics. It's actually Facebook is giving you topics to talk about. Is that crazy or what? Please, I think I'm brave enough and smart enough to be able to start conversations with people without having to be suggested a conversation topic. It just sometimes some of the stuff I see that these companies have come up with is totally bizarre. There is, according to Wired, there's a really cool video. It's basically inside National Geographic's incredible documentary Mission to Mars. And this is probably going to be, from everything they say in it, it talks about the process of what would really happen to go to Mars, and what folks could potentially face on a trip and landing and everything else is going on. So I'll have the link up in the show notes on that so that you guys can check it out. And then what's next in my stack here? I got a lot of stuff tonight. I'm never going to get through it all before the end of the show. There's an exclusive clip from PBS's Nikola Tesla documentary. So I guess they've been working on something, their PBS historical series, American Experience. And the next version of that is going to be on Tesla. So I'll have that link up in the show notes if you're curious to see that. Google's put Intel on notice that they're looking forward to using non-Intel chips within its cloud base. Disclaimer here, I hold Intel stock, so Google, I want you to buy lots of Intel chips. But they've joined a consortium called OpenSea API, and basically what they're trying to do is break Intel and IBM's hold on the server market, and they're trying to disrupt some of these Big Blue and Intel to take some of their power away. So we'll see what happens with this, but they are basically putting Intel on notice that they are looking to move away from using as many of their chips as they have in the past. There's also a problem out by Jupiter, or is it Jupiter or Saturn? One or the other. I have got some serious crap going on with my computer here. Don't know why. The browser is not cooperating. NASA's Juno mission, which is out by Jupiter, they were going to go into a lower orbit. Right now, they're on a 53-day orbit of Jupiter, and so they're looking at and it's basically like engine problems. Some valves are not switching when they're supposed to. So you guys hear that in the background? I think my wife is tickling my son. I can hear him back. I can hear him giggling in the back. It's loud enough in the studio here that I rebooted this computer when I came home. I don't know why it's acting a fool. But, anyway, so a couple of valves are slow to open. They're supposed to open like in less than a second, but they're taking as much as a minute. And when you're talking about firing a rocket to change an orbit, having a delay of up to a minute of something happening when they're expecting a specific burn time is not good. So they're going to do some testing and see where they can get over the next couple of weeks on it. They're going to do another 53-day run, essentially, to try to troubleshoot that browser. I get the Firefox browser is just not responding. The feds, this is kind of interesting. They're saying it's legal. Now listen to this. The feds did a search warrant that they were approved, where it was illegal for them to demand fingerprints to unlock phones of everyone in a building. So they were going to raid a building, and everyone that was in it was going to be forced, whether or not they were part of under investigation, not that they were going to demand fingerprints to unlock phones of everyone in a building. They got that approved. So you're sitting in a building, and some enterprise next door is doing something illegal. The feds kick in the doors, and they basically say, unlock your phone. We've got a warrant. You have to do it. If you have a PIN number, they can't force you to do that. Only if you have your fingerprint used. So, but this is something they got approved out in California. The EFF is basically saying this is egregious and everything else. And it's interesting the tactics that law enforcement are taking these days to try to get access to phones that are currently non-accessible to them. There's a good interview with Ford design chief Morey Cullum, and he's basically looking down the road 5 years and looking at what Ford is going to, what Ford needs to do to meet the driverless future that is ahead. And I didn't take the time to read the full article because it's very long article, but he does talk about finding new designs, and to the point where at some point down the road we're not going to have to be hands on the wheel. We're going to be able to let the car drive and truly be autonomous, and basically get in, tell the car where to go, and it takes us there. So thinking about interior car design, exterior car design, all that stuff to support all the sensors and everything else. So talking about the challenges, productivity, the predictability of how buyers are going to be, whether or not the general public is going to embrace it or not. I'm as soon as it becomes safe and I know the car is going to get me from point A to B, even though it might kill me if a kid steps in front of it, I'm going to be all on board. It's cool to drive, but where I live here in Hawaii, it's not cool to sit in traffic. So I'd just rather have the car take care of the business if it can do so. Talk about the social impacts, whether or not even families are going to have a car dedicated to them, whether there's going to be car sharing, and all those factors that go into this. So lots to read in this autonomous car design future. Interesting commentary by, again, the design chief from Ford. They're discussing everything. So I must admit, though, the GT he's leaning on is a pretty smoking hot car. Not that I could ever afford the vehicle that he's taking a photo shoot around, though. That's for sure. All right. Those of you in the UK, man, oh man, this is crazy. Just about as crazy as some of the stuff that's going on here. UK admits it spied illegally for 17 years. They're sorry, but they're not going to stop. The GCHQ bulk collection program was deemed to be illegal under Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. But because they made changes to include more disclosure on the underlying policies, rendering it legal. So as long as they disclosed what they were doing, they could still continue to do what they were doing. So, yes, they're still tracking every cell phone. They're still keeping where you've been for the last year, all that stuff that was revealed in this lawsuit. In the UK, they're still doing it. So just be aware, Big Brother is watching. The folks at Pixar, the animators there, made a short 6-minute clip. It's pretty cool. I watched about the first 2 or 3 minutes of it. Everyone's saying it's a dark animation. But it's worth the 6 minutes to watch it. I'll have the link up in the show notes for you guys to check it out. Again, a little side project by the animators there. And they took quite a while to do it, too. So it's pretty high quality. The folks at Lucasfilms, though, they're not very happy with a company in California that apparently teaches, yes, get this, it's a lightsaber school. You heard me correctly. There's a company that has a lightsaber school, and the school's logo kind of looks like a Lucasfilm trademark, the Jedi trademark. So the lawyers have come out in a company that charges $10 for lightsabers for a lightsaber session. Yeah, $10. The folks at Lucas are coming over there and going to break this guy big time. If you have donated to a Republican senator over the past 6 months, you may want to check your bank account. A website used to fund campaigns of Republican senators when infected with malware that for more than 6 months collected donors' personal information, including full names, addresses, and credit card data. So just be aware of that. That has happened. The link will be up in the show notes for you. And also, you got to love this, drone advertising. So you're sitting in traffic, not in the United States, in Mexico, and you're wondering why you're sitting in traffic. You're mad. So Uber has got drones to basically hover above the traffic and in Spanish tell them that they could, instead of sitting in traffic by themselves, they could be sitting in an Uber vehicle. So again, Uber is using drones to advertise in Mexico as their startup plans to double its presence in Latin America by 2018. So in this picture, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 DJI drones with little placards hovering along the road, basically teasing the drivers that they don't have to be in their vehicles. So I just wonder when this is going to happen here. I don't know if it ever will without the FAA and FTC and everyone else getting involved. But it is, I have to give them kudos for a cool marketing thing. Hey, Netflix, boy, oh boy, if you live overseas and you've been using a VPN to get access to American Netflix content, the war is on, and many VPNs have said, "I'm sorry, we've tried to, skirt around and fool Netflix up to this point, but it's a war of attrition, and Netflix keeps making counter moves, and they're not doing it." So, if you're an expat and you've been trying to get American Netflix, sorry, you're just about out of luck. Really, probably the only thing that you can do at this point, if you want to watch Netflix from overseas, is to have a willing party in the United States, have a computer that you can log into and load Netflix and play it that way. But, you need a really good internet connection, and it'll be laggy and weird. So you may be stuck with getting the content that's available in your region only. That said, they did have $51.5 million in third quarter profit. On a per share basis, the Los Gatos, California-based company said it had a net income of 12 cents, which beat the analyst numbers. So they are up in aftermarket trading, up for about 1% for the year. I think 99.80 is what it's trading at. So congratulations, Netflix, for having a profitable quarter. Fitbit admits that it has a Charge 2 bug. So if you have a Charge 2, Fitbit Charge 2, they have a bug that basically doesn't track distance correctly. So make sure you do a software update, and that should solve it. If any of you do collectibles, in other words, do you buy collectibles? I know that I buy certain type of Navy memorabilia. I haven't bought in some time. But eBay's got a new site called eBay Collective, and it wants to be your go-to place for high-end stuff. So if you're, this is a kind of a cool way to shop. Here's a challenge, though, with buying dishes or buying memorabilia online. You're really at risk for stuff that is not real. Reproductions, fakes, you name it. So you really have to know your stuff and have to have good pictures and good documentation. So hopefully eBay Collective is going to be able to vet much of the stuff that's going to be put on the site. Is this typically stuff that's not cheap? I don't buy collectibles that are expensive. When I was a kid, I used to I got pretty good at pinkware. I got to know pinkware really well, and I was buying pinkware at garage sales. And so you're talking about now, today, some of this stuff is very high-end, very costly. So if you do collectibles, this might be a way to do it, to find stuff that you may not find otherwise. eBay Collective. All right, last couple of articles for tonight. NASA had a successful return of the Antares rocket. They launched a Cygnus cargo spacecraft to the International Space Station, taking 5,100 pounds of scientific equipment, food supplies, and hardware. So congratulations to them getting, having a successful launch. And so, good to be back in space with them and delivering stuff to the International Space Station. So folks out at Wallops Flight Facility near Virginia got to see the show at 4:45 Eastern today as the launch took place. Airbnb, interesting article about Airbnb. Airbnb is driving up rent in your urban neighborhood. I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Warren, but she says that she wants a federal probe into the short-term property rental industry. And she's saying that specifically in California, in around areas like Venice, California, even all the way to Venice, Italy, that short-term, cheap Airbnb rentals, which are great deals for those of us coming in as vacationers, is causing, because the day-to-day cost of an Airbnb would be more than you would pay for rent, is driving rent up in cities. So the tourists are going to be able to afford to, stay inside an urban area, but because of Airbnb having such an impact that it's driving the rental prices up dramatically. And she's calling for some investigation into that and find out what the real impact is across cities, for people trying to live there. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? But people are also buying rentals or living in a rental property and then subletting it to Airbnb to help make their rent. Maybe they go home for the weekend, business travel or something like that, or even buying as a investment and strictly doing Airbnb rentals. So interesting move. A little bit of that going on here in Hawaii too, and they've really tried to crack down on it. Just so you know, there is a real Captain Kirk. Yep, Captain James Kirk, commanding a U.S. Navy destroyer. So the USS Zumwalt, of course, Zumwalt is a very historic, famous admiral that was, basically responsible for nuclear-powered submarines and a lot of different other things in the Navy. He is the commanding officer, Captain James Kirk of the USS Zumwalt. So, wow, what a reputation to have to live up to. And also a couple more things about Julian Assange. Apparently, there was a couple of cryptic tweaks from WikiLeaks with some codes, and people were worried. And I don't know if they do this just to get buzz because we're talking about it, but there was a 64-character code, and it had a really weird preamble to it. So, very interesting. Maybe means nothing, but it's keeping people guessing, right? And Russia has unveiled its death ray for drowning drones, and they've got a laser that they're using to, and this is something that they're going to sell on the military sales market, is a laser system that will chop drones down. So, don't even need a bullet anymore. Just put a laser on it and knock it out of the sky. So, using the death ray. Okay, let me see what I've got in email here, if there was any. Let me look. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing good. Kirk, I have your email. I'll be reaching out shortly. And let's see here. Did I read this already? Got an email from John. WCA, and there's partnership to bring smart growth gigabit broadband to county. Which county? Let me load this and see if I can actually see the article on this. Is it for New Rochelle, White Plains, Mount Vernon? So it's in New York, where some folks are. A company called WCA is trying to bring gigabit broadband to those areas. So that's very, very cool. Thanks for sharing that, John. Need more companies doing that. And I think that's it. That's all we've got. Not a lot of commentary. Of course, I've not been doing my job either, as having 2 shows a week, but we'll be back to that. Everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And love to hear your commentary on today's show. I heard we had some microphone bumping noise on the last podcast that irritated a number of you. I will make sure that the portable rig doesn't do that. Figure out how to prevent that microphone rumble or bumble or whatever I was doing. Didn't even realize, didn't hear it in the microphone or didn't hear it in the earphones. So I apologize that I missed it and you guys got a lot of microphone noise. So definitely we'll take a peek at that. Hey, thank you again for supporting a sponsor here at Geek News Central. Definitely get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And for those of you that are insiders that are supporting the show, you have my eternal gratitude for doing so. And thanks so much for being with us today on this show. Again, check everything out over at geeknewscentral.com. Make sure you stay subscribed. We'll see you next time. Everyone take care. Aloha.